Welcome back to Open Door with Dr. Brett. Yeah, we're talking about like a million different things this morning or this afternoon. So,
What's not going on?
your future wife is pregnant. What's that like for you?
There's ups and downs. It's just a lot.
Is she having first trimester issues, like with the nausea and stuff?
Yeah, a lot of stomach stuff, a lot of just feeling uncomfortable, and then talk to other. Like I have friends that just gave birth. Neighbor just gave birth. Their baby's like a few weeks old, and she's like, "Yeah, you're gonna be uncomfortable all the time."
Oh yeah, so she's
yeah,
getting that from her friends.
Well, no, I don't know. I think she actually is uncomfortable, and I think she's gonna get more and more uncomfortable as she's walking around.
But some people like love their pregnant. You know, I've met women that just love being pregnant. So it's not a guarantee that.
I mean, I know enough about the body to know it's probably not fun, you know?
Yeah, no, it doesn't look fun. No. I don't need to, you know, it just doesn't look fun for us males. You know what's fascinating is I've got this kid he's 31, but his wife just got pregnant and he's freaking out, He's having panic attacks and everything. And, you know, it's just like for him, like it's a huge potential change in responsibility, and you know it's brought up every freaking dynamic that he could ever.
Yeah, I mean it definitely brings up a lot of emotions and fears. I've always had an inkling that I'd be a good father. I didn't always expect to be a father, but I think even when I told my mom, she's like, "Oh, I didn't think I'd ever hear that."
Really?
Yeah.
Your mom thought you would never have kids? Yeah. Why is that?
Because I just was never sure. I feel like there's a lot happening in this world, and do I really want to bring another another life into this world? Way
sometimes, especially now in the middle of this sort of divisive politics.
Great time for kids.
COVID politics, it really can make you want to live somewhere else, right?
Big time.
You have that option though. You're more flexible than most, right? So, like, you know, a lot of people can live elsewhere, like financially, but they're not necessarily emotionally flexible enough to actually pull that off. I mean, you are.
Yeah, I think I think financially, that's like the least bit of it. Most places are cheaper than where you're living now. Like, at least for us, like we're in South Florida, it's expensive. Most places in the world, just about anywhere is cheaper. Places are like a fraction of the cost to live, you know. So it's really just getting that will to pick up and move, you know.
And also the creativity to be able to run something remote, right?
Yeah.
Like not everybody has that.
Yeah. And I can do stuff online. I can teach yoga.
Right.
So I have options. There's mindfulness.
But you also have, you know, inviting a partner in your life that has that kind of flexibility too. Not everybody does that. Some people are too attached to their home environment.
That's actually huge. My brother would like to live somewhere else, but he has 2 daughters, and the mother is not about it.
She's not, so it's not.
So it's
not
even a question.
Totally. So you got to knock up the right person on this planet. I mean, I think that's like that's lesson number 1 is like, you know, rule number 1: make sure you knock up somebody that has your same value system. Right. It sounds like you've done that part, right? Congratulations. You got
Thanks.
That's probably half the battle, right?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of you got the emotional ups and downs of pregnancy, but we're going through it.
We're going through it. It's so fascinating. Like, right?
Yeah, it's
like
not...
3 months ago it was like me and her. Now it's we.
Yeah,
right? We're pregnant.
We're pregnant. We're both pregnant.
I find that so fascinating, right? When like males say we're pregnant, and I'm like, wow. I mean, like I guess that makes her feel good, right? When we're pregnant. Does that take 10% of the edge off of her? Or not really.
I don't know. I don't think she feels relief. There's
This woman, the male who's freaking out, the woman is going through a lot of intense, nausea and so on. But I think part of that can also be, it's not all physiological. Part of it can be emotional.
Big time.
If you're in fear of yourself, you're going to have bigger symptoms or more symptoms.
Yeah. There's so many hormones.
And if you're in transition too, right?
Right, yeah. So many hormones in itself, like that in itself. So everything that happens is 10 times bigger.
Right.
Whether it's
Yeah.
Left the clothes in the dryer, or
It's like
or it's the thought of actually picturing raising a child, and so how big or small, everything's just huge.
You know what's fascinating is I have another friend, a guy I met on it's awesome. I have this friend that I met on a handshake like 12 years ago, I think, and I literally on the handshake I said we're gonna be buddies. I could feel it. And we talk every week, and he just had a baby. He's 35 years old, and he's like, I have a puppy, right? And so he's like, we're so alike. On the handshake, I knew we were gonna be friends, but he like roughs up the baby in a playful way, the way I rough up the dog in a playful way, and they go back and forth, and the baby is just blissed out. They're just so physical, right? And so I'm on the phone with him the other day. He's talking to me about how he is with his baby, and like. He's just a great parent because it's an all-in thing for him, just like it is for me as a dog parent. Yeah. But what I loved was how much in common we had in terms of our styles.
That's hilarious.
Our parenting style, right?
Dog, human. But yeah, I mean, touch is important, and kids love it. They don't, they don't know the difference between rough and not rough. I feel like kids like.
Oh, some are just, if they're wired that way, they love it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just the cooing and the kissing. It's like he kisses the kid like 30 times or something, right? It's a game, right? It's like
or my favorite is throwing them up and catching them.
Oh, wow. I would be scared. I saw some, some grandpa actually dropped his, a baby off a cruise ship by accident or whatever, what I mean? So I just... Like if you, the problem with reading too much or just learning too much or hearing too, there's a
lot of scary stuff out there. Kids die, health stuff happen, and people, government wants to take your kids away. There's all kinds of
now, where are you
things.
On the vaccine issue? Do you have to do you and your wife to be think about or talk about stuff like that already?
We have,
Now you're in the first trimester, you have the vaccine discussion. Do we get
that's important.
What are the top 3 discussions in the first trimester? I haven't been there yet.
First trimester, wow.
Because you're in the first trimester, right?
We're figuring out where we want to give birth.
Where? Okay, because these guys are creative.
How. Where and how.
Right, where and how. Because you guys are more creative. You might actually
go to,
we're
doing a home birth.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I remember talking to her about that. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. And it's not a nurse practitioner, it's just a nurse midwife, right? Which is, just somebody that is good at delivering babies, right? And making moms feel comfortable, I assume.
Right, and and because she's a nurse, she knows she's a little more medically trained. Well, a lot more medically trained.
Right.
And they're, keeping an eye out for all the important stuff. So it's a good balance.
Okay, so
healthy balance.
So with whom, where, and where, what are the top 3?
Who's helping us deliver the baby?
Okay.
And then getting all that stuff out of the way, like the doctor stuff. Making sure she's happy with
choosing
people,
the right OBGYN
all the
too, right?
Stuff.
So you have to go through that.
Yeah, those are big decisions.
And what are your new jobs now that she's pregnant? What's changed in the last 90 days?
We used to have plants up high on a ledge / like a huge ledge / loft area by a window, and had to go up on a ladder to water them.
Oh, not anymore.
Not anymore.
She didn't just send you up on the ladder? I mean, I don't understand. She's pregnant. You go up on the ladder, pal. Like she likes to water the plants.
Yeah.
So the plants are on a lower level.
Plants are at a lower level.
Got it.
Things like that. Otherwise, as far as jobs, I don't think anything huge has changed.
So far, it's been
we just have to be more mindful about heavy lifting, I guess. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
And you have to be more, you're a pretty sensitive guy, but now you have to be more sensitive? Is that more understanding, right? Because you seem like
more patient,
more poised. I like to talk to this Dr. Brett here with the poise thing. Talk about that all the time. So you're using your breath, more poised, right? It's going to be okay, right? So if she gets too hormonal or whatever it is, you just talk her off the ledge.
And you got to remember when to never give up, and also when to back off, because that's huge. Because certain things are just all right, I'm not.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, it might get easier though, right?
Yeah,
I think it's
no,
gonna, like, as she adjusts though to the pregnancy.
Yeah, we communicate very well. I'm not worried about that. It's just like she is experiencing it though, so the experience is real.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because this is a frightening thing for a lot of new dads. I mean, some look forward to it their whole lives, and others just kind of, like it scares them, right? The responsibility piece, I think, is one of the biggest ones. The feeling of being responsible for another soul on some level.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's like an honor to be able to. Yeah. Like I get to raise a little version of me,
the two of us.
Yeah,
the us. Well, it's not just you, because it could come out 2/3 her, right? It's possible. Might be 2/3 you, but So, is there anything that is there a bias towards a son or a daughter, or does it not matter? If you just had your choice, what would it be?
So the midwife knows now. Jess got the call, but we weren't together. She was out, and so she didn't get the gender, but we're gonna.
Oh, you actually are gonna know.
Yeah, we know. Right. We know. They can do that in a blood test.
What would
nowadays.
Oh, really quick. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. But isn't that all babies are female until 12 weeks, something like 12 weeks or something?
Yeah, the gender's not decided.
Yeah,
well, 10 weeks now, I guess.
Whatever. So, okay, so then I don't know the biology of. I can't remember. I've read that before.
Yeah. So
like everybody comes out a certain way, and then the gender gets differentiated.
I guess that's why we have nipples. Guys don't have a biological use for nipples, but in the fetus, when we're developing, we grow them until our gender is decided.
Well, I remember reading this book in grad school, Gay, Straight, and In Between. Like, gender identity is a continuum. In our culture, there's a lot of issues around that kind of thing, but it's not, gender is a continuum, right? Or your identity around it, like whether you're...
Right, your identity around as a whole.
Right.
Yeah. It's a continuum, but at the same time, you kind of have to choose how you're going to live your life. And
definitely.
I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I definitely believe everyone should be free to do whatever they want, but at the same time, you have biology. There's no denying whether you have a penis or a vagina,
So what about the bathroom? What about bathrooms? You know what I mean? What about I'm not putting them on the spot.
Oh man, I think that we should just have. I've even seen signs where it's like a person, and then half of the person is wearing like pants, and half of it is like a dress to show it's half. It's a gender neutral bathroom. Just
walking into a Mexican restaurant and going, which one's a gringo and which one's
Why can't we just have a bathroom? Why can't that's a tough one. I guess with public rooms and multiple stalls, it's a thing. But I mean, restaurants usually, or a lot of restaurants have just single doors, it's individual. So I don't. That's a tough one.
Coming back to the like raising your kid elsewhere, that's too hard. We're just gonna move on from that.
All this confusion,
right? Like, which country would you choose if you were free to just sort of go anywhere? And you might be. He actually might be.
Right now, we are looking at Bali because cost of living is cheap, and there's great resources for children, for families, for foreigners that travel, so expats. I would like to say Jamaica, but I feel like when it comes to the nitty-gritty of things, Jamaica is it's like the Wild West. It's like the Wild West. So gun violence there is as bad or worse than America.
Right. Right.
And I think we're up there. Other
that doesn't sound like nitty gritty. That sounds like freaking important. So it's sort of fundamental.
Right. It's one of those basic things.
Yeah. So the safety in Jamaica is just not
in general, there. Right? People have Bali, less of a concern for human life. I assume
Bali is much safer, right?
Yeah, much safer.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you can probably sleep without any doors.
Wow. So there's very little crime on Bali?
As far as I know, yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's far away. It's on the other side of the world. Is her family okay with that? I know your family's very international, right? It's like your mom is already there, or has been.
Yeah.
Right? Your dad's Jamaican in Germany, right? So this is pretty flexible here.
Yeah. She's always... her family, she knows her family's always going to have something to say. So she knows that's coming. She knows that's coming. But for sure, she's willing. She's, you know.
Yeah,
like and awesome they can get tickets. Well, you know, everyone can travel and open up their perspective to the world.
And come stay with you guys in Bali, right?
Totally.
Yeah, totally. Your mom's been living in Bali, right? So have you spent much time there?
I've been there. Have I been there? I've been there once, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
I was there when I was 16, so it's been about 12 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So you're getting it mostly through the lens of your mom, is that? Or
right now,
research?
I know it hasn't changed much. I mean, I've been there. I know what it's like. I've traveled. I've experienced Indonesia. I've been to a couple islands there.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I know what to expect, and I've been through South Asia, I've been Thailand.
And there's a way to get some kind of residency, like, you know what I mean, for a year, so you don't have to leave. Like, because when I lived in Thailand, we had to leave every 30 days. That's a little stressful.
Yeah, there's interesting packages. So yeah, 30 days if you're just on a tourist visa. So they have other options, other types of visas available, and possibly business visa. You can stay for longer. Got it.
And your wife-to-be, she would run a jewelry business or jewelry design business. She could do that from anywhere.
Yeah, that's what she does now. And we're figuring out how we can relocate that, because we still have a lot of orders that have to be sent in the U.S. So order fulfillment is the thing, because shipping individual orders all the way over.
Well, you would have.
Right. So we'd have to.
Where's the jewelry being produced?
Right here in Florida.
So can't you just have someone else she designs the piece, someone else makes it, right, and then you're pressing a button or something?
Exactly.
Yeah, it can't be.
Grow to that point. Or maybe even have a team in Bali work with as well.
Oh, I see. And then they could ship it through Asia as well. It might not be worth shipping all the way.
Well, we can just have someone in charge of shipping over here.
Got it.
And so our production stays close to us.
It's amazing how much the world has changed, right? Like in terms of the flexibility.
Oh man, business is so easy. You can do anything.
Yeah.
Just have
Although now temporarily with this COVID thing, right? I don't know how you create anything new from China or Asia short term, right?
Right. It's tough.
It's got to be nearly impossible to get a factory going now.
It's tough, but they have a lot of new opportunities opening up. Like when they have factories closed down or transportation slows down, they have options for other industries. I was just listening to a podcast with these guys talking about green opportunities. So they're bringing in green technologies and using this as a time to transition over, because they kind of found we temporarily slowed down public transportation and factories. And so the pollutions has subsided for a little bit. So people are taking a pause and thinking, hey, how can we keep this going?
There's almost always positives, right? To the situations that feel negative, because like there's less pollution going on, right?
Yeah,
so that's
amazing.
A huge positive. Like air pollution
we need
particular.
That. We breathe air.
And then maybe people get used to it, and then they want more of it, right?
And this whole thing with corona, it's a respiratory virus, which means if we have healthier air and our lungs are healthier in general from the air we breathe on a daily basis, that means we have healthier lungs.
I watched this podcast months ago, this Dr. Bush, and he talked about over a year ago predicting where the next pandemic would come from. He predicted the Wuhan area in large part because of the particulate levels in the air, the amount of pollution, right? And then the environmental toxicity as well. The soil was toxic there as well. So
think about your immune system, right?
Right.
So your immune system has to help your body fight off all kinds of outside things. And so I like to compare your breath to your diet. If you're eating, but if you have a terrible diet, your immune system's going to be crap. We know that, right?
Right.
So
you're also, if you're under a lot of stress.
And stress. Right.
Diet, stress, lack of exercise, genetics, right? But air pollution, environment matters a lot too, right?
Well, I say you have to eat, you have to breathe more than you eat. So the amount of toxins that you're getting in your body when you are stressed out, well, sorry, not toxins, you're not getting enough oxygen not getting the right blood
Well,
flow.
it's so easy to forget
stressed.
to breathe. You're
Right.
You're a mindfulness practitioner, right? Right. So have you been reminding your wife to breathe? I mean,
all the time.
Like,
Just breathe.
Please, baby, breathe. Stop throwing knives at me. Please breathe. Or if you throw them, just throw it a little higher and over to the right. Breathe.
Perfect your aim while we're an apple.
Yeah. So the toxicity, though, like, is a big component
Right,
here, right? Of underlying. Like it's just another example about how, whether it's coming from what you're eating, but also your external environment, the particulates you're breathing, right? So if you're, and maybe this is a positive too, is like more people will move out of cities, right? Because cities tend to be
dense air,
crowded, dense, but also more particulates in the air, right? More air pollution, right? So
yes,
Bali, I think it's going to be pretty. Almost no industry there, right? Probably none.
There's very little.
Yeah, so that's got to be air amazing, air quality amazing.
Yeah.
And all my languages.
A lot of and they do have some industry, but a lot of it's very natural. You have guys carving, making furniture, and statues and sculptures, or you have artisans, and then there's the tourism industry.
Huge. Yeah. I wonder, do you know what's happened to them with this like shutdown of air travel? I would imagine they're suffering there.
Everyone,
like their economy is just so based on tourism.
Yep. Everywhere around the world it's like that. And Bali is right there with it. A lot of businesses are hurting, hotels are hurting.
Someone said, like, I think I read that like almost like 70% of businesses in Dubai will be, permanently closed or something.
Yeah, that's another huge one.
And the air travel right now, from what I understand, it's really the lockdowns that are the problem, not the quarantines, not the actual air travel, because people are now, everybody's wearing a mask. You can't get on a plane without a mask, right? So
if you want to get on a plane on such like a contained environment and fly 15 hours, that's
that's why you're not going to have a baby for another 7 months. So maybe I think this thing by, I want to say second semester, because I've coached all these like, adolescent athletes and so on. So we're always talking about semesters, but I think by second semester, meaning by January, February, we're going to be largely on the other side of this thing. And I don't think it'll be just because of a vaccine. I think, it'll.
I think most people want to open up. Airlines want to run. And I find that airlines in some places they're running, and then they have to close down because of regulations and stuff.
What's really the quarantines that are shutting, right? So how do you travel anywhere if you have to quarantine for 14 days? Who wants to be locked down like that? It's just too hard.
I know people that don't even want to drive out of state because
I've got Florida plates now, and I'm like, I'm not sure it's worth the discrimination, as if we still, our rates are way less than New York if you do it per capita. But it's almost, I have all these Connecticut, New York clients that are, calling me as if I'm dead. We're dead down here. But if you actually take the 21,500,000 people, you take the amount of cases over that number, and then you take the number of cases in New York over the 19,400,000, you get the actual number, the percentage-wise, per capita, and then you realize we're still way less than New York, right? So anyway, it's just, we're not dead here, we're still alive. And you're very alive.
Doing good in Florida.
But you are a COVID baby maker, right? So there is this sort of, right? It's like
you're a baby maker.
Well, it's like in COVID, there's all these either romances that you didn't start in COVID, but there's either going to be COVID babies, right? You're going to be, like your kid one day will be a COVID baby, right?
Like how there's that generation of kids who were born in the Depression,
totally.
Think about that.
And then there's these COVID romances. A few months ago, I met this neuropsychologist she was a total stranger. We're having a conversation, like it was literally 1 minute into the conversation, and I looked at her and the guy she was with, and I'm like, you guys are a COVID couple, right? I nailed them. I knew it. They met in COVID. This boat captain literally, it's fascinating. This boat captain literally drove 1,500 miles or 2,000 miles to Chicago to pick her up. And then they did they lived on his boat here, the boat he was captaining here. And so they started this COVID romance, and they were together for
COVID
a couple
romance. Months. That could be a movie.
It might be. I mean, like, who knows what's going to come, all kinds of plots that are going to come out of this. Right now, Hollywood's temporarily shut down, right? But I think at some point,
they gotta be.
The creative types are sitting here going, oh, how do we kill somebody during COVID and make it a suspense thriller and, something like that.
Right.
Awesome. What else, Jahmaal? What are you curious about? I always ask this question, like, what are you curious about? What do you want to know, while we're doing this thing together right now?
A lot of times I feel like in life I have a lot of the tools I need in life to succeed. I don't know why this just came into my mind. What am I curious about? Perfect, I like it. I feel like I have a lot of the tools I need to succeed, so I'm not curious about a lot of things. I feel like I know a lot of things, or a lot of things that I learned from other people, like yourself, that, you're very well educated and knowledgeable in the subject of life and the self and awareness and things like that. I feel like they're just reminders. I'm not really learning anything new, but sometimes I feel like I might be missing something. So how do I know if I am or not?
Yeah, see, that's pretty awesome. I like that. So you're saying on one level, you have a lot of self-confidence. You've been a meditator for a long time. He's a mindfulness practitioner and a meditator. And when you go inward, like for long periods of time, you develop more self-confidence, right? And then you might be curious because there's so much to learn on this planet, but you have enough self-confidence that you're like trusting that you have the skill sets to be successful or succeed. But then there's always this sort of nagging piece that says like, well, what if I'm wrong? Or like, what if there's more? Or maybe there's something I don't know that I don't know. Right. And I think that that's the healthy part.
Right.
Well, I think it's healthy to like, I think it's healthy to realize that no matter how sophisticated I believe I am, and you're as sophisticated as I've ever seen for 28 years old. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Right. There's always an element of we don't know what we don't know until we actually go through it. Right. So I don't know if you've been through like a severe trauma or something, if you lost somebody, you're walking across the street with your best friend and he gets hit by a car right in front of you, right? And he dies in your arms. So there's always that element. I'm not trying to be morbid, but there's this element of that, you don't know exactly how you're going to handle every situation in life.
Right.
And maybe that's part of the reason why you have that, right? Because life does sometimes, send us curveballs.
Like this, this whole time for the world right now.
Yeah, well, that's a giant curveball, and it's a weird one because so many people are going to suffer and go belly up, and really, we've been talking a lot about the mental health aspects of this thing that a lot of medical doctors aren't, especially infectious disease doctors aren't discussing. But the anxiety, the depression, the homicides, the suicides, and the just sort of losing your business, the long-term, what I call the zombies, the walking dead, from having their lives sort of like so messed up.
Right.
Some people won't recover from that. They're not as resilient. Someone like you is more resilient. You just are, right? But other people, I've worked with thousands of human beings, they're not all resilient. So that's a big concern I have when we shut down the economy, so to speak. Right? The ramifications of it. And then social distancing, it's a great concept, but we need contact and we need, we need both. Never shaking someone's hand again is like lunacy to me, right? It's like, okay, yes, we're going to wear our masks inside. We're going to be socially responsible. Fine. But, let's like realize that this will pass and we need to get back to loving and working. Right.
Big time.
I'm pretty biased in this direction.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question though?
Totally,
what I was sort of
totally, and it's a good. The way I like to say that is that like the way I like to rephrase that is, you can't ever be sure of those people who think they're 100% sure. Those are the people to watch out for.
Oh yeah, no, that's
or who think they're 100% sane or whatever it is.
God. Yeah, no, it's so true, right? It's like they're not going to know what they don't know, and a lot of times that's ego. As you know, it's ego, right? It's arrogance and pride and other sort of ego elements.
Right.
like the longer you live, the more you realize that you have, like, there's just so much you don't control, right? Like when you lose your parents and things like that, or
Right.
loved ones, it can get pretty rough. I mean, right? And grief is an emotion that a lot of people, it's, to me, they're the two hardest emotions are betrayal and grief. And, you know, so if you haven't been through grief before, then there's something you don't know that you don't know. You're not exactly sure how you'll handle that.
Wow,
So everybody handles that differently.
That's a deep one. Those both relate to loss as well.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So we were talking about reinforcement, how we can reinforce positive behavior or punish negative behavior. I think that's one of the ways that our emotions, I feel like every emotion has a purpose. And so when our body or our mind or our endocrine system, whatever it is releasing those signals, whether it's hormones or neurotransmitters that send those signals of grief or betrayal and everything that comes with that, I feel like it's one of those, that's the reward or the punishment, you know, that's the reinforcement to help us, because we don't want to experience that again. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think what you're trying to say is that once you've like, if you've created mistakes, especially around things like betrayal, trusting the wrong person, then the reaction is so devastating that you're unlikely to experience something similar again by making the same mistakes. Right. But unfortunately, a lot of people will, when they're hurt, they don't open their hearts again to love or to whatever it is that they want. And so one of the keys to life is to live with I believe, I'm biased towards living with an open heart. So you learn how to handle, you learn how to handle rejection and loss and fear and, you know, and grief, right? You learn how to handle it and not shut your heart down. Because when you shut your heart down, your life is contracted. It's, you know, it's very common to do. You see it all the time. But to me, it's a narrower, more limited life. But to keep your heart open, as you know, in the middle of grief or loss is extremely difficult. It's not easy. And it does require the breath. I mean, breathing through grief is like, you know, is something I talk about a lot. You know, grief comes in waves, right? And to be able to sit in meditative states and allow the wave to come through and not let it, like, you know, knock you like silly, but to just sort of be with it, you know. And sometimes you're just breathing through it or crying through it, and it can be, you know, it could be hours potentially if you have that kind of stamina, but it's so much healthier than taking meds or something, because you know, the grief is so overwhelming that you get severely anxious or depressed.
Totally.
So what's that?
That's powerful.
So as a mindfulness practitioner, that's also part of what you're teaching, right? Awesome. Definitely. Great stuff. So we didn't anticipate doing Open Door with Dr. Brett, but we just created that in the moment. So I'm Dr. Brett, and I'm here with Jahmaal Hays. Thank you so much.
Thank you.